correctly with the correct amount.
D20 Radio, where gamers roll.
www.d20radio.com.
Welcome to Me and Steve Talk RPGs, a podcast where me and my friend Steve try and help you get the most out of your role-playing game experience. Welcome back to Me and Steve Talk RPGs. I'm here this week with my friend Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Good.
And a happy belated birthday.
Thank you. Happy, very belated birthday to you.
Only slightly more belated than yours. But anyway, we're both a year older, and that happens to everyone.
Yeah.
All right. So we got a podcast to do this week because, well, that's what we do all the time. Well, not all the time, but a lot of the time. But before we do that, what's our D20 Network Spotlight podcast this week?
Our D20 Network Spotlight is Shared Sagas.
Shared Sagas. You know, that sounds like a role-playing podcast.
It is. It's an Australian role-playing podcast.
Mm-hmm. Wait, that's the one our buddy Tom does, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Ah, yes, Tom and his crew. They're all kinds of fun. They do lots of different systems. They've done Star Wars, Shadowrun. They're currently doing Descent into Avernus.
They do lots of swearing.
Yes, they do. Well, at least Tom seems to think they do. I don't find them offensive, but, you know.
No, but
just so that you're forewarned.
I just always think it's funny.
But yeah, plus, you know, like they've done campaigns of like Star Wars, and like I said, they're doing Descent into Avernus now, but they intersperse that with one-shots of Aberrant and Shadowrun and Fate and just whatever the mood strikes. So they're great fun to listen to.
And good people.
Yes, they're good people. We need to get Tom back on at some point because he's fun to talk to.
He is. Just talk about anything at that point.
Yes.
But
you know what we ought to do is we ought to just have a movie podcast. We'll just let you and Tom talk about movies, and I'll sit here and take notes.
Okay. It'll be like any other time we do an interview, except reverse. I'll wait my turn to say something, and then you'll ask the question that I wanted to ask, and then I'll wait again.
All right. So all that said and so forth, what are we going to talk about today, Steve?
Well, so I'm cheap. And
I am too.
I think you're cheap too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I figured we might as well talk about gaming peripherals on the cheap.
Fair. I know, you know, a lot of people, especially these days, everyone's into buying all the expensive, you know, Wormwood and Dogbite and all that stuff. But like for me, you know, I started gaming when I was a broke-ass college student.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, same. I was still in high school, so I didn't even have a job at that point. So I think the first thing to start at is, I think we start at the easiest stuff to get and go harder, okay?
Okay.
So as we're getting into, at least in the US here, back to school time, all the kids are getting ready to go back to school. I went to the Dollar General, the dollar store. I love that place. And picked up a whole bunch of notebooks.
Mm-hmm.
2 for $1, 50 cents a piece.
I am very fond of dollar store stationery for role-playing purposes.
It's nice because, like, I tend to lose notebooks. And I used to buy, when I was in, actually, I have one sitting here. When I was in high school and running D&D, I would always buy the composition books.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the
hard-spined ones with the...
Yeah, sort of the hard-covered ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm used to them being black and white, kind of that weird...
Yeah, they're like a weird speckled pattern on the outside.
Yeah.
Like I have a blue one right here that has all of my old D&D notes in it. And I used to buy the crap out of them. And I don't know why, because I hate using them.
Yeah, they don't open right for me. They never have.
No, they don't. You gotta like flip them and futz with them, and it's just too much work. And so as I've gotten older, I've just come around to either really like legal pads, meaning like the yellow paper that flip up top over the top, or I'll just buy college ruled notebooks.
I've used both of those. What I've taken to using more of late is I buy the little steno notebooks, which are kind of like a college ruled legal pad, but wire bound at the top.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a problem with the steno notebooks.
I like them because they're a little bit smaller footprint than a regular wire bound notebook,
Mhm.
and so they take up less space of all the things that I need to have in front of me.
Right. Well, I don't think it shocks anybody, but my handwriting is kind of atrocious, and I can't use those effectively,
Okay.
especially when I'm doing like a RPG thing, because I'm taking notes fast, or if I'm even writing like a premise for a campaign, I'm still
Mhm.
writing it super fast so I don't lose it in my head.
Mhm.
And so those, because they are the smaller footprint, I fill the pages too fast.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say, is your handwriting a little bit on the larger side? I've never actually noticed when we played together.
It's medium. I mean, usually the faster I write, the bigger it gets.
Okay. Yeah, see, for whatever reason, I have I won't say like tiny, but I have moderately small handwriting, and that's just. But I mean, but again, we're talking about things that are all you know cheap
Other,
to buy,
yeah,
and even if you don't catch them in the back to school sales, at least again around here we have these stores called Dollar Tree.
yeah, Dollar Tree, or I like to call them Tree Fitty.
But all those places, like, and even like back to school time, Walmart's, Targets, all your major retail stores have stuff on sale cheap.
Yeah, and I understand the people that are, I understand the people that always want that, like, "Oh, I want the nice leather bound thing. It's handmade. It's really cool." I've had a few of those, and the ones that I always liked were ones that I could take and put my own notebooks in,
Mhm.
because I don't necessarily want a thing that's I paid a lot of money for, and as soon as it's filled up, I'm gonna have to throw it out. But yeah, I'm a sucker for, especially paper goods. I like a good cheap paper good. Um, you tell me, 50 cents, a quarter, we're
Yeah.
talking, yeah, I'll pick that up for a quarter.
You know what else I like to buy at call it dollar stores, whatever, is, blank index cards.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you get 100 of them for $1.
Or sometimes 2 packs for a dollar.
Yeah, you can't argue with that.
And they're great for anything. I mean, you
Anything.
can
Yeah.
minor notes, passing notes, making your own spell cards because 'cause you're too cheap to buy the pre-printed ones, making, even like NPC, mini NPC sheets, whatever, writing down your disposable goon stats like a lot of people would use monster cards.
I throw all my NPCs on note cards.
Mhm.
That's just a
I might
constant for me.
Okay, let me ask you this since we're talking about just gaming stationery.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Riveting
one of
conversation.
one of the, if you wanna call it tools I find most useful as a GM to have, and I typically play with a screen, and it's not that I'm necessarily trying to hide things, but well, we'll get into this down the road. But anyway, one of the things that I like to have as a GM is usually just a blank character sheet.
Mhm. Yep.
Because that way I can look down and go, "I want a this skill check."
Aha! You've heard me do that when we're gaming multiple times. That's a thing that is a Steve staple. Because you'll hear, like, it's usually the first skill check of the game. I forget to open my, because I don't mean to be Debbie Downer or whatever, but the majority of our gaming at this point have become online.
Mhm.
And so the first, like, skill check of the game, I'll be like, "Okay, I hear what you wanna do. I need to bring up a character sheet so I can see what I need to make you roll."
Uh-huh. No, but that
I always keep either a blank one or a filled out one or whatever just laying around just so I can glance at it and be like, "Okay, give me a perception check," or give me a drama check in, let's say, RetroStar, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I keep that around. That's goes back to just zing an extra one off, and I always keep a couple extra character sheets laying around. Just
Mhm.
a good practice to have. That way, if you ever have like, hey, I'm gonna bring my buddy to the game. All right, fine. I got character sheets. I'll throw him one.
And, I mean, playing online, you can even do it with a PDF, although, again, maybe it's just because I'm of a certain age and there's something about having that tactile paper sheet that is pleasing to me or something.
Steve has a screen set up in front of his computer monitor. It's like peeking over the computer monitor at the Discord.
Well, I've look, okay, I finally went to a dual monitor setup,
hmm
and it's a game changer, but I still fill them up with things, right? Like, right now, I've got at least 4 windows open,
Well, yeah,
for what we're doing right now, and if I'm gaming, then I probably have 2 or 3 more. Well, I don't have huge monitors, so
right.
now I've still got stuff behind other things and whatever, and I'm really good at forgetting where I put things,
Yeah, no,
both
I am too.
and this also transfers to physical space, but, like, if it's on a table in front of me or the desk in front of me, I can find it faster, usually.
Right, right. No, I'm with you there. No, I know what you're talking about. I do that too. I'll have like physical stuff printed out, or I'll have different things written down. That's usually what my notepads are for. Is I'll have different like I will go through, especially if it's a new system. I'll go through and make notes of what I think important rules are going to be,
Mhm.
and then if that changes or I find something that I need to update to, I will. Meaning, if I find that a rule I wrote down isn't actually as important as I thought it would be, but if I find a rule isn't as important as I thought it would be, I might scratch it out and write down one that we use more frequently, or at
Mhm.
least a page reference number.
Yeah, see, I do that sometimes if I'm reading a game, just, in preparation to run something. I'll make notes of, these rules are, around this page, because sometimes it's, a section of the book or just different, like, especially if it's a brand new system and I'm getting, like, vibes off the book that I'll
Mhm.
write down, just scribble myself a note. So a lot of times, if I'm reading a book, I'll have a notepad there just to jot notes to myself about things.
Well, and here's another thing, and this is just a secret in life in general. If a book ever repeats something, it wants you to remember that.
This is true.
Because there's been a number of times where I'll be like going through, oh man, Cyberpunk 20 Cyberpunk Red in 2020 do this a lot of like, oh yeah, this is on page number blah blah blah. Okay, cool. No, don't forget that thing's on page number blah blah blah. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. I see what you're trying to do here.
You're going to want to look this up. This is where you can find it.
Hey, by the way, did you look that up? This is where you can find it.
And I know this isn't, it's a feature in a lot of PDFs, but the Cyberpunk Red PDF, the hyperlinking in that
The
is
hyperlinking is
so
so
good.
nice. So let's go ahead and move to the next important thing with stationery, and that's your pen. What kind of pen do you use?
Honestly, you know what my favorite is typically, and it's not the best feeling pen,
hmm
but I go to them because they're cheap and they work every frickin' time. Are the classic Bic clear stick pens.
Oh yeah, the little skinnies,
Yeah, well, here, let me turn my camera on. I'll
the
show you
clear
which one I'm
ones.
talking about. Yeah, the clear, these ones,
Oh, okay, yeah, the really clear ones.
the crystal, whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like, I like a lot of other pens. I like the gel ink pens. I do like the way they write, but sometimes they smudge a little bit on me, and I find that annoying.
yeah.
But these crystal Bic stick pens, you can get them at a pack at Walmart at like $2.99 for 10 of them. You lose them before they run out,
Right.
or mechanical pencils.
I bought a. I used to be a pencil person. I used to really like pencils. I used to carry mechanical pencils. I used to have regular pencils. I always preferred pencils for writing in my notebooks. And then I got fed up with it one day.
Well, sometimes they actually fade over time,
Yes.
and that can be really weird when you pick up a notebook that you put down 15 years ago and go,
Can't read this.
"I can't read this anymore. What does it say?"
Yeah.
And sometimes that's just a function of my handwriting, but
Yeah. But I picked up some of these, and I think these are going to be super important if you're going to a con or something. Bic makes a pen now that is called, well, they're calling it the Prevagard. You can probably see that here.
Yeah.
PRE,
Yep.
Prevagard. These are supposed to be, and I don't know, whatever. I don't know the science behind it. These are supposed to be microbacterial,
Oh, okay.
antimicrobial.
Mm-hmm.
So they're supposed to kill germs on them. Obviously, take extra precautions or whatever. But I picked up a bunch of these at the dollar store because they got them in way before they were supposed to have them and threw them in their clearance section for $0.25.
Ooh.
And I was there today and looked at the same pack that I was buying out of the clearance section for $0.25, and they wanted like $3 for them.
Aha.
But I like those. I just picked up a brand new Sharpie felt tip because I'm a big felt tip person for writing. I can't stand the sound of them sometimes, but I love how they look and how dark they stay.
Yeah.
Mechanical pencils, yeah, I could take them or leave them. I like a, if I'm going to use a mechanical pencil, I go up a size of mechanical pencils. Everybody
Mhm.
uses the 0.5s. I like the, what is it, 0.2 or whatever.
0.7s?
0.7. Yeah, that's it. They're not the points. Pretty much everybody uses a standard 0.7. I go up to whatever
Okay, the next one up.
the next size up is.
See, I just buy a bag of the cheap Bic ones or whatever, the
Yeah,
disposable
I've
ones.
done that too. I'll do that before I start a campaign in person. Just throw them at people.
Mm-hmm.
Literally,
And then I
just,
don't care if I don't remember to get them back.
yeah, it's whatever. They were $1 here.
Yeah, they're dime a piece or whatever, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't phase me at all. But obviously, writing utensils is one of those things where you could go super cheap, you could go super expensive. I mean, I've had expensive writing utilities. I used to make expensive writing utensils.
Yeah, you used to turn pens, didn't
I
you?
did, yeah.
That's one of the, well, not necessarily pen turning, but just turning in general is something that I keep thinking I want to fiddle with, but it's on the list of very long list of things that I want to fiddle with, and well,
I can say that it's an expensive hobby to get into because you're looking at, if you don't have lathe already, you're making the investment for the lathe, and then you're making the investment for the blanks. Like, you can get one of those pen turning kits, and then you're buying like the
all your
mandrel and the
gouges.
lathe and the gauges and the pressing and it's a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, I used to make pens. Well, make pens. I used to turn pens, not really make them. That's fun. I mean, you can make a lot. Those can get really expensive. I made people gifts and stuff like that. But no, I mean, pens is a personal thing. But honestly, for me, it depends on what I'm doing. If it's just for me, I'll spend a little bit extra on a pen just to get a nice one. Because I used to be known to rock the Fisher Space Pen, which is a fantastic, fantastic pen.
I like nice pens,
Mhm.
but
You tend to lose them.
it's kind of like it's why I wear, well, like as far as I still wear a wristwatch,
Mm-hmm.
which I know is not all that common anymore, but I buy Timex Ironmans because they're $35-$40.
But they're
I beat the
indestructible.
crap out of them
Yep.
for like 3 years, and then I just go get another one.
Yep. That's why I wear my. I usually wear Casio G Shocks, like the cheap G Shocks. That's why I always wear those,
Mhm.
because you can beat the crap out of them, and if I break it, I'm out like $20.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I know. I know the feeling of like, man, I don't want to buy a nice pen because I'm going to lose it. But if you, I don't know, I something about having a nice pen is
Oh, it's very pleasing to write with, but it also may also be the fact that my quote unquote office or desk space is a cluttered jumble of all kinds of things and not enough space.
right.
And so half the time, if I'm reading and making notes, I'm not doing it down here. I'm sitting on a couch upstairs, and then I'm carrying my pen and my notepad and whatever. And then I set it down, and then, it goes somewhere.
Well, let me tell you an absolutely valuable investment. If you ever see them, pens with the little stylus end on the end of them,
Hmm.
especially like almost disposable pens with that, they're worth their weight in gold.
Okay.
And the reason for that is, and I didn't realize it until I bought one. I was like, oh man, this makes like because we were just talking about this. Almost everything we have now is like online. I know you're not a big fan of reading digital media, but if you're reading digital media, you can use those pens like as a stylus. And so you can highlight things in the book, or you can swipe through the book pretty easily. It's a whole thing.
I never thought about trying to do it that way.
Yeah.
I shall have to.
Yeah, sometimes you can get them from the bank. Like the bank will just have them out for free.
I actually have a little. I don't know why it's on my desk. It's a little stylus thingy that I think my wife got a pack of them at the dollar store.
Yeah. Yeah, those. That's if you open
But
that
this
cap,
isn't a
I think it
pen.
has
This is just a.
it's just the
It's just
stylus.
it's just a stylus thingy.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say, a lot of those
Pokey,
are
pokey, pokey, pokey.
a lot of those are pens too. But yeah, that's a worthwhile investment.
Well, especially if you have fingers the size of mine and
Well, yeah,
digital screens.
you have a hard time with digital screens, so I'm kind of surprised you don't use a stylus. I'm honestly.
Well,
Yeah, I know.
it's something else to carry and lose.
Yeah, I understand. That's why you got to wrap it in with your whole pen. If you're carrying a pen every day, you got the stylus and the pen. You just less to worry about.
Fair. Wonder if one of those pens with the eraser on it, if the eraser would work as a stylus.
No, they don't.
No? Okay.
No, I've tried that. They don't. So
Post-its.
Post-its.
Post-its are good.
Post-its are
For
good.
marking your place in books and, again, passing notes. I don't like to write in my books. I know some people do. I am not one of those people who worries about the book staying in pristine condition, though. Like, I buy my books to use them. I don't care if the corners get a little dinged, whatever, but at the same point, I don't wanna just scribble notes in them. So if I wanna leave a note in the book, I'd put it on a Post-it and put it in there.
Well, you know this from when we used to play in person. I am
Yeah.
a huge fan of the flags. The Post-it flags, which are the little skinny, not quite Post-its. And I have them constantly sticking out of all of my books, all of my physical books that I have.
Mhm.
And they make for really good quick reference to whatever I want to get to.
Yeah, and you can get those at your pretty much any dollar store, either Post-it brand or
And in all honesty, if you are that cheap that you don't want to spend the money on them, get the cheap packs of regular Post-its and just cut them down.
yeah, you can do that too.
Because I've done that myself. I've just cut and made my own because I was like, because there's sometimes like $1, $2 more than a pack of regular Post-its. And so it's just like you take a pair of scissors and just
I'll see. I more often to find I'll be at home doing something and I want those and I can't find, like in this case, yeah, I have a pack of those in a drawer, but I can find regular Post-its. I can't find the little ones. So I just take a knife and cut a half an inch off the side of the pad, and now I've got a stack of the little ones.
Yeah, pretty much. I do that pretty regularly. That's a common thing for me. Dry erase markers. Oh, dry erase anything. Get you a dry erase board from again the dollar store or wherever. It's going to become one of your best friends. You'll love it. Either that, and we both have them. I don't know where mine's at right now. It's probably out in my car somewhere.
Oh, those digital scribble pad, or not digital, but
yeah, they're like a magic ink drawing pad.
Yeah, those are good, and use it more in person than I have online, but
I mean, they're nice for just making quick. I don't need to keep these notes. You never want to write anything permanent down on those, but you just,
yeah, dry erase is good for a lot of things.
Yeah, you can do basically the same thing as those magic pads with dry erase boards. I've done it. I like it. It works.
Mm-hmm.
Get a foam board from the dollar store.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a little bit of DIY inclination, and say you're playing a game like D&D that does promote doing terrain, go get either foam board, well, probably just foam board. And you can get it in multiple sizes, and they do sell it at the dollar store. It's usually like $1 a board, or even less sometimes, depending on what you can find. Go get yourself some foam board, and you can make your own terrain with that.
I've even seen it done out of cardboard.
Yeah, I've seen it done out of cardboard. It's a little bit more difficult to do out of cardboard. I was playing with that the other day of just making some like simple stuff, road tiles. Because because I don't, Watsy will gladly sell you the freaking cardboard tiles. I know I had them, but just go get you some foam board from the dollar store. It'll save you a lot of money and save a little bit of money and lets you customize what you want to do.
Yeah. Now, I would say along that vein, I was going to go the board we used to use in person,
Yeah. Yeah, that was
which,
just a big chalkboard.
well, what it was literally, and I happened to have it laying around the house
Oh
for
yeah, that's
some
right.
reason.
It was a pegboard.
It was a 2-foot square chunk of pegboard, which you
Mhm.
can buy at Home Depot, already cut to 2 foot by 2 foot. The nice thing about this, in terms of using it for gaming purposes, is that the holes are on 1-inch centers. So it's
Right.
effectively already a 1-inch grid.
Right.
Well, what we did to make this work for gaming is I went to probably Walmart and bought a can of chalkboard paint.
Yep. And just painted it with chalkboard
Painted
paint.
it with chalkboard paint, and then we got a box of multicolored chalk, again, at probably the dollar store,
Yep.
like summertime, and it worked great.
Yeah, it worked really good. Yeah, no, I agree. That was one of those things that was a really nice thing to have around.
Because I remember we had tried using a dry erase one, and then something, hey, it wasn't erasing right, or it's always kind of rolled up, or
Yeah, and Chessex makes an expensive dry erase battle mat, and they're like $50-$60. And yeah, they're fine, but they're not. You got to be careful because there's two kinds of them. There's one that's dry erase and there's one that's wet erase. And then you end up in this situation where it's like, yeah, you can roll it up and move it or whatever, but then good luck getting the ink off of it. And that thing worked a lot better because we could just, like, if we really wanted to, just wipe it down with a wet washcloth and it was clean.
yeah. But I mean, your standard chalk eraser worked great. And okay, yeah, to make it, I don't know what that piece of board cost. Let's say it even costs $15. Can of the paint's probably $5, so you're at $20. But now you've got, and another $3 for chalk. But now it's already laid out in grid.
Yeah, and
You just count them.
Well, you're still half the price of what you would spend on that Chessex board.
Yeah, it didn't transport the easiest. But for storage, we just stuck it behind a bookcase or something, I
Yeah,
think.
if you're playing at one place consistently and you can just leave it there, just leave it there.
Yeah.
You don't
And it's
have to
thin.
pack it back and forth. It's not that heavy, it's thin, it doesn't take up that much space, it's not as portable as rolling up a, mat, but it's a lot better than not having anything.
Yeah. And we had talked about at one point trying to make walls
Yeah,
that,
because
like,
you
you could
could
stick into the
easily.
peg holes and whatnot. And if you really wanted to do that, you could. I don't have the patience combined with the desire to do it. Let's put it that way.
Well, you know what we could have done, and I didn't even think about it until it was too late. Needed to find a piece of dowel rod that would fit in those peg holes. And then you go and get, just like I was talking about a second ago, foam board that's a little bit thicker than those dowel rods.
Mm-hmm.
You put the dowel rods in spaced apart, however far between those peg holes,
Mm-hmm.
and you just stuff them into the foam board, and there's your wall.
Yeah. Run them in a pencil sharpener to sharpen them up, stick them into the edge.
You don't even need to do that. I mean,
Well, I think those holes were about 1/4 inch, and most of the foam board's only 1/4 inch. So,
well, yeah, they make 1-inch foam board.
okay.
So you could go up to 1 inch. So I'm sure there's probably, like, if that was 1/4, you could probably go to half.
Yeah, you could make it work one way or another.
But
Or you
yeah,
could use Lincoln logs. We did that one time,
did.
and those actually worked incredibly well.
Well, and yeah, when we played at my buddy's house the one time, we used all his old, like, Duplo Lego blocks and stuff. A
Mhm.
lot of people get away with that. They'll just use Lego, and that's a thing they do.
Yeah, well, I remember, Jonathan from, Genesis Archive
Mhm.
said he'd used to do that a lot. Oh, Lego, which, I don't have any at the moment. At least I don't think so, but I know a lot of people do.
That's a Goodwill thing. Go to Goodwill and get either Lego or the little kids Duplo if you really don't have the energy to build Lego stuff.
Mhm.
Um,
And, of course, as far as minis, now, I would say most people probably what we did, you actually painted minis for all our PCs.
yeah.
But for NPCs, we used to use dice, or I had a bag of dollar store army men.
Well, what I've seen recently, and I had no idea, and this is brilliant, And I actually have started making a couple of them just to try. Most hobby shops, or not hobby shops, so like places like Michael's, Joanne Fabrics, Hobby Lobby, stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They sell glass beads. I'll call them glass rocks. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They're about yay big around, probably about an inch round.
Mm-hmm.
And what people are doing is they're taking those and they're Mod Podging images of the monsters onto the flat side of those.
Mm-hmm.
So they're sort of domed at the top and flat on the bottom. You take the image of the monster that you want, you're Mod Podging it onto that rock. And it makes for a really nice token on the board that also is like almost 3D in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I'd have to see it done, but I can see it kind of, yeah, it would kind of bubble up into the glass.
let me see if I can find an image of one.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. That's a very good idea. Or, you could, I mean, I've heard of people cutting up their old magic cards to make monster tokens
Yeah, I've done that. We've done
and
that
then
before.
glue them onto, dollar store poker chips.
Even just doing that and printing them off and putting them on cardboard, or like you said, the poker chips, that works. Any of that is gonna do it. If you're just looking for tokens, I honestly, I love painting miniatures.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you have a lot of time and love for painting miniatures, you really don't have to, like, you don't have to invest that time if you don't want to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with making just tokens for your gaming, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong with playing with a little token because it's all about play pretend anyways.
Right.
And there's lots of great products, and I'm not telling you not to go, if you want to buy something from a creator, go for it. Go buy
Oh,
something.
yeah.
But
Yeah, like, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was going to say, we're not trying to tell you to not go buy the cool, neat stuff. That don't take us wrong here. But I think a lot of people see the cool, neat stuff and go, but I can't afford all that. How can I play?
Right. So basically like that, Steve.
Oh, okay. I see where you sent it to me.
It's in your private messages.
Dun, 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 dun. Oh, yeah. Those do have kind of a neat 3D.
Yeah, because it's domed up. It works
And it
perfectly.
looks like there's like a circle of foam board underneath it there, too.
They did. You don't have to. You really don't. That's an extra step that I don't think is necessary.
Yeah.
Because they are already raised. I mean, those things are already probably a quarter of an inch high.
Yeah. But yeah, all of those things.
So yeah,
Again, they're cheap.
they're cheap. You buy the bag of beads for, oh man, that's probably like a $2 investment. And what's printer paper and ink? Like, honestly.
Yeah.
And then, there's the next option that you have, and I've seen a lot of people doing this, is find discount minis. So Wizards of the Coast sells some really fantastic, well, I shouldn't say Wizards of the Coast. I should say it's WizKids sells some really fantastic miniatures that are pre-primed, ready to paint. They also sell pre-painted ones that are ready to go. But at Walmart, and a lot of people have come onto these and really liked them, they sell a sort of cheaper, or even the dollar store sells this cheaper Dungeons and Dragons. They're metal miniatures, and you get a can of aircraft grade paint remover, some good heavy gloves.
Yeah. Aircraft stripper is nothing to play with.
No, but you get a can of that, some good heavy gloves, and a nice, just you get a cheap can of spray paint that you can use as primer. Anything that's matte. I know a lot of people on the internet are like, I'm sure I'm going to get lambasted by some of our hobby painters in the group, in our Discord and stuff. But honestly, as long as you have a good matte spray paint, you don't need primer. Primer is unnecessary for the scale at which we're painting at. I find that most primer flake that they have. So primer, is textured.
Right.
Most primer flake actually ends up clogging up details on miniatures, which is why you get companies like Games Workshop or Vallejo or any of those that come out with, it's a model air primer. Well, yes, it's just spray paint. It's just a matte finish spray paint. Get some color place. They're 98 cents a can. If you're not old enough to buy it, ask your parent and be like, look, I'm not going to commit graffiti. I just want to paint some miniatures, and I'm sure they can get you, parent or guardian. And just get a matte, either gray, black, white, whatever, just not any real vibrant colors. And then go from there. Use whatever paints you got. There's a couple paints I don't recommend. I don't necessarily recommend anything that's like a enamel, but any acrylic paints. If you have cheap Walmart acrylic paints, hey, you can get acrylic paints. Those little apple something. I don't remember.
I've got
the
a
brand.
set of the Walmart ones over behind me.
Yeah,
that I've been meaning to actually try painting with my bag of army men at some point, and I keep putting it off.
yeah.
But anyway,
you can literally start with that. No, they're not going to be great. Yeah, it's going to take a couple extra steps. Yeah, it's going to take a couple extra coats. What I believe with the learning how to paint miniatures using cheap paints is that it makes you a better painter because it teaches you tricks for when something isn't going your way.
I could see that.
And we've talked about it a while ago, but we definitely need to have somebody on and have a conversation about painting minis. I haven't had that conversation in a long time.
Yeah, I'm not the person to have that conversation with,
No,
unfortunately.
and I don't mean that to be rude to you, but yeah, my
Oh,
personal
no, I'll
opinion
admit
is
it.
I've invested a lot of money, and I do have a lot of money sunk into Games Workshop paints because they're the Games Workshop paints are sort of the go-to. It's either them or Vallejo or
I know
Army
a lot of,
Painter.
I've heard, I was to say, that's the one I've heard a lot of people talk about.
Army Painter's coming up. They got a really nice set. Vallejo Model Airs, if you're doing any sort of airbrushing, they're sort of the go-to. That's another thing, airbrushing. I could talk on that a little bit. I just looked at it. It seems like it's a pretty decent setup. There is a nice, weird little airbrush at Harbor Freight that I'm actually going to end up picking up. It's what do you know about airbrushes?
A decent. I know the compressor is usually the expensive part.
Right. So Harbor Freight has the small compressors dirt cheap. Usually they come in the kits. What they have right now that I was looking at, and let me see if I can find it. It is a what I'll refer to as a pot airbrush.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching a guy on YouTube review it. He was like very skeptical, and I don't blame him because it's not something that I would be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna get that. That'll work great because it doesn't look like it's gonna work good.
When you say pot, it's just like a siphon feed spray gun where the tip
Yes.
for holding the paint
Yep.
screws up underneath the belly of the
Yep.
brush.
Yep. I'm sending the link to you in our Discord chat. In your private messages.
Okay.
It's currently on clearance for $10.
Oh,
which
dang.
I might have to go get that because they also have. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. Ignore that one. It's actually this one.
I would say that one didn't have the
It doesn't have the one that they have on sale for $10 doesn't have the compressor with it.
yeah. I actually have a airbrush like that out in the garage somewhere, but
if you have an air compressor, even if it's an oversized one, if you crank the pressure down on an air compressor, even a large one, you can make them work. But you see that 3/4 ounce quick change airbrush kit?
mm-hmm.
I'm picking that thing up. And I was so skeptical of it. I was like, there's no way this thing works. Because there's a hose that runs down in the bottom, and it is just the only way it works is because the air comes across the top of that and creates a vacuum in that pot, sucks the paint up through. He was getting such good coverage out of that. And yes, it is like a spray can, right? But in most model painting, you're not, unless you're doing model cars, you're not getting into that. Yes, I'm sure there's guys out there that can get into really fine details with airbrushes, but everybody starts somewhere. And most of the airbrushing stuff that you're going to be doing is you're going to be picking out, you're going to be laying down base coats of colors in specific spots on the model, right? Like if you have an arm that's going to be bright pink, you're just going to take your airbrush and that arm bright pink, and then you'll add your details in later.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to do super, super detailed work with that airbrush. And you're not going to do super, super detailed work with a lot of airbrushes. For starting out, I think that's going to be an awesome thing to have. Especially for spraying primer and stuff. You're spraying base coats on models. If you're doing speed painting, I know all this is going over your head.
No, I understand a lot of what you're. I don't know a lot about painting as it pertains to minis. I do know a little more about like automotive painting, which is similar, just on a much larger scale.
Yeah, yeah. So on minis, I find that the majority of airbrush work that you're going to do with minis is just picking out spots here and there. And a lot of people will sometimes even very lightly airbrush stuff to give like a certain lighting effects.
Hmm.
But until you're getting into those really like until you've got a lot of painting experience under your belt and learned a lot about painting, I think the best place to start is with a brush when painting minis.
Yeah, I have a question for you in terms of airbrushing. And have you ever seen anyone do it with uh, like one of those cigarette lighter tire inflator compressors? Do they throw enough air for an airbrush?
That's basically what well, if you go to Harbor Freight and buy an airbrush compressor, that's basically what you're getting.
Except they're 120 volt, not 12 volt.
Yeah, yeah.
But looks like they have regulators and moisture separators on them.
Yes, they do. Let me look up one thing. I found one
I was
thing that
just
I'm
curious.
interested in. I was looking at there's a couple things. People are now making battery powered airbrush compressors that attach right to the airbrush that are sort of fascinating to me.
Yeah, I would think that would be bulky and heavy.
Yeah, and it kind of is, but you can also run just an air hose off of it.
Hmm.
Like if you don't actually want to deal with running that bulky heavy thing, you can run a cord to it. They advertise them as cordless is sort of the big thing.
Hmm.
But yeah, Harbor Freight sells the airbrush compressors. They're I don't know, $80, $100.
Somewhere in that range, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit of money, but if you're going to get into airbrushing minis, it's probably worth it. I don't have anywhere to do it, otherwise I would invest in one.
Hmm.
Uh, but what I'm probably going to invest in is going to be one of these portable airbrush compressors, just because it doesn't take up as much space.
Hmm.
But again, your mileage may vary. I mean, airbrushing is something that I don't think is necessary at all. That's like a lot of guys talk about wet palettes. Yeah, okay. I've never used a wet palette in my entire life, not once.
Hmm.
I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, well, it's necessary to start painting." I don't think it is. You can get away without a wet palette as long as you have a cup of water and a roll of paper towels.
Hmm.
I don't think wet palettes are, and I would gladly have somebody who does a lot more mini painting than me come on and argue with me that no, it's absolutely necessary and that I really need to be thinning out my paints more. And I'm sure you're right, but for me, I can make it work.
Well, I think that goes to what you were saying though about sometimes starting out with the cheap budget stuff teaches you technique as
Right.
opposed to relying on the equipment.
Right. I can hide more of my flaws now that I've been doing it this way, I can hide more of my flaws
Hmm.
because I've learned more tricks than, necessarily having that perfect starting base. But again, minis aren't for everyone. So if you don't want to get into
Hmm.
minis, you do have the option. You can make tokens, you can print tokens, you can buy tokens. Yeah, it's just one of those things.
I was going to talk a little bit about, well, we're going back to the more table, whatever, directly gaming stuff before we went down our little painting road. Stuff like GM screens.
Yeah,
A lot of stuff. If you're playing Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder, there's a lot of screens out there relatively inexpensive. You can just get one. If you're like us and you play a lot of old games or obscure games or whatever, they may not make one, or it may be impossible to find.
go to Walmart, buy yourself, and they're not super expensive. You bought them when you were in high school. When you were in school, I had to make one. I'm sure you probably made one in school. Presentation boards.
Yeah, science fair kit.
Yep. The Elmer's display boards, they're like $3.
Mhm.
It's a
That works.
trifold display board. Buy that, cut it in half horizontally, and you get two GM screens out of it.
Yeah. I made one actually out of a dollar store foam board, and I happen to have some weird plastic hinge stuff that slipped onto the foam board
Yeah, that works too.
in between the panels, but you could easily do that with just duct tape and leave a little space in there. And then just buy those, again, cheap sheet protectors, put them on
Mhm.
the inside, and put whatever you need in there.
Yeah, a little bit of double stick tape, and away you go.
Mhm. Yeah, and you could even do the same thing on the outside for artwork. You could or Mod Podge paste whatever images you wanted to print and put them on the outside. If you're not, I keep telling myself someday I'm gonna get those hard, acrylic sheet protector things like they put on the walls in
Mhm.
places, and put them on the inside and actually build myself a nice wooden hinge screen, but again, that's one of those, yeah, I'm going to do it someday, but that someday may never come.
Um, I have the boards laying out to do it. I just never got around to finish it. I cut the boards because I'm gonna make myself a nice cedar heart trifold, and I cut the boards for it. I got the hinges laying at my dad's house, well, my parents' house, and I need to get bag clips. Is what I want to use for my attachment points. I'm either
Mhm.
doing bag clips or I'm gonna do something else. I haven't
You
really
could
decided yet.
also, get a like a little Forstner bit or even just take a regular drill bit and maybe grind it down flat, and stick magnets, recessed magnets.
I was gonna say, I'm thinking about maybe doing recessed neodymiums.
But yeah, that may be, I mean, not that it's incredibly complex, but it does require tooling that a lot of people probably don't have or know how to use.
Yeah, no, that's a gets into a. I have a whole wood shop at my parents' house that I have access to.
And, between what have and know how to, yeah, like, I have a drill press and I have all kinds of stuff out in the garage, but,
But no, if you're looking to just make yourself a quick cheap GM screen, that's $4 is not a bad place to start.
no, no, it's not. You know, dice trays. Actually, one of the best dice trays I ever saw anyone use, someone we used to play with in person, had, and I don't remember what kind it was. It wasn't the little laughing cow cheese. It was a little bit bigger box than that,
Hmm.
but it was like a 6-inch round box about an inch deep that was from, like, one of those cheese,
It was from Brie.
but it was the greatest little dice tray. And she could put her dice in it and put the lid on and take it home.
Yeah, from President Brie. It comes in a little cardboard box that was perfect. Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree with that. Or, you know,
A small puzzle box.
a little puzzle box, or get a I've seen people do this too. Get a crayon box.
Yeah.
Get one of the Crayola crayon boxes. Everybody knows, you know what I'm talking about. The little flip top lid, semi-transparent plastic, multicolor crayon boxes.
Mhm.
And it doubles as storage for your dice, your utensils. Um and
A lot of those
also,
plastic ones have rounded corners, though.
yeah. I mean,
But even so, I mean,
you're just looking somewhere so your dice don't roll away.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, get yourself a little crayon box and you can roll right into that and, oh, look, there's my results. And then, you can go all the way up to going crazy and buying an expensive dice box.
Yeah, well, I have that. I got it on, somebody gave it to me for Christmas, I think, but it's actually about a 8 or a 9-inch octagon thing that snaps together
Yeah.
that I have. It's nice. You know, of course, I got it, I think, for Christmas in 2019, which meant I got to use it for about 4 sessions. But anyway,
It's life. I don't know what to tell you.
but, it is what it is. But I mean, yeah, there's
Phase
so much of
maker.
that stuff you can if you just look around at the stuff around your house, so much of it can be used to do some of these things that maybe you want to do it, but you just don't have the money right now.
Yeah. I just want to, people my age, I want to put out a memory into the ether. The Space Maker crayon boxes. Those were the ones with the little bubbles all over the top of them. Multicolor. You probably don't remember them. They probably weren't
No,
around for your era.
no, probably not. Back in my day, we had cardboard.
Yeah. Back in your day, you still wrapped your books. Hey, and that's another thing. And that's what I'll tell you. If you're worried about your books getting banged up, you're worried about keeping your covers nice, go get you some book covers. They
There you
make the
go.
fabric ones. They're a couple bucks, or I don't know, get some paper bags, cover them the old school way.
Yeah, paper bags are coming back at the grocery store.
I know, I like them. I like the paper bags. But yeah, no, yeah, if you're worried about your books getting banged up or you're worried about your covers getting ruined, get you some, looks like Office Depot has the book socks for $2.99 a piece. So you pick those up. They're stretchy. You throw them on your books. Or, like I said, paper bags or whatever. It may not be pretty, but it'll work.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think what other stuff we can point people in the direction of saving money with.
I mean, yeah, a lot of it is. It's just like I said, just kind of looking around and going, oh wait.
Oh, back to minis for a half second.
Mm-hmm.
Plano tackle boxes, but you don't have to buy Plano brand.
Mm-hmm.
They make these little flat boxes. They're for hauling bait, or they're for hauling lures. They work perfect for hauling minis around.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people call them bead boxes too.
Yeah, some people call them bead boxes. You can get them pretty much anywhere, or like any fishing, anywhere you can get fishing supplies. You can find those anywhere. You can get like any hobby shop. You can find those too. But yeah, the Plano tackle box, the flat boxes, those work really good for storing minis. They don't let your minis bounce around too much.
I knew people who carry their dice in those too.
I've seen people carry dice in those. They work good for that. Yeah, you can carry a lot of stuff in those. They're usually relatively inexpensive, especially if you don't buy name brand.
Mm-hmm.
So like I have one in my car that is it's labeled as Bass Pro. I think it was only $3.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you don't buy name brand on those like little flat boxes, you don't have to spend a ton of money on them. They help you carry your minis. I know a lot of people will buy DeWalt and Irwin make a little flat toolbox. I want to say it's probably 3 inches thick that work really good for storing minis. They have like 1-inch squares that you can set your minis and stand them upright so that they can not so much bounce around or lay on their sides. Back when I played X-Wing, a lot of people, that's how they hauled their minis, was they would get those, like I said, either DeWalt or Irwin or whatever, Stanley, whatever brand toolbox, and haul their stuff in that.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else we could think to tell the people?
I mean, other than just go have fun with it, right? I mean, that's
Yeah, seriously.
sometimes, and I mean, maybe this is just me, but like you see shapes in things that may or may not be obvious to everybody, but like or cheap kids toys could make great set props depending on what you're doing. Like if you're playing, like you can get all kinds of little cheap plastic vehicles, especially like excavators and crap like that, depending on what you were setting up in the scene. If you're doing maps with a lot of like train and stuff, model train stuff, I suppose, if you really wanted to get deep into it, but that's not necessarily cheap.
Some of those can be. Some of those could be a little bit more expensive. It really depends on.
No, I remember the thing I was going to bring, and we kind of glossed over it. Are the little cardboard stand-up miniatures that a lot of games come with now?
Yeah, a lot
You
of
could
games.
just, print something, Mod Podge it to a piece of cereal box and stick it in there.
Yeah, no, and a little bit of cardboard goes a long way. Yeah, again, it's the idea of like you can do Lego buildings or you can do, any of that stuff. It all works. It all works. All it is and a lot of the time we get wrapped up in, and I think it's sort of I don't mean to always blame everything on Critical Role, but it's the Critical Role of it all. It's the people want to build. They want the I want the fanciest thing. I want I want the thing that's like. I want the Wormwood dice box, and I want the
The
Dwarven
Dwarven
Forge
Forge
miniatures,
tiles.
and I want I want the all this, and it's like, yeah, but how feasible was that actually?
Well, yeah, I mean, because you got to remember that Dwarven Forge has been a sponsor of Critical Role for a long time. So, yeah, they want you to see that and want it. It is great stuff. Don't get me wrong. Again, because I'm cheap, I'm hesitant to invest in that kind of thing because how many times am I going to use it?
Right.
That's the thing for me. And it's even not so much the cost as much as the cost to use ratio.
Yeah. No, I play once a week and I don't get paid to do that. So I'm not going to invest right now into I'm not going to invest money I don't necessarily have into this, you know, I could buy more books. I don't know, maybe that's my problem, is that I'm a book person. I could buy another game with the money I could spend on all this stuff. And I definitely I did spend my money when I was younger on minis, and I did spend my money on this, and I bought the newest that, or I have this type of bag, Oh, everybody knows about the Crown Royal bag, right? If you're of a certain age, get yourself a Crown Royal bag. There you go. That's your dice
They
bag.
make amazing dice bags. In fact, I remember I saw a meme somewhere, and it was a picture. Someone had a pair of pants made out of Crown Royal bags. Sorry, my desk is trying to kill me. And the caption of the meme was, "What a waste of perfectly good dice bags."
Yeah, exactly. No, and even if you don't drink, go buy a thing of Crown Royal and give the bottle away.
No, but they really do.
No,
Because they're nice, soft bags.
they make really nice dice bags. They always have, and they always will. I don't know how else to put it. The day Crown Royal stops coming in bags is the day that all the nerds stop buying Crown Royal. And it's been a staple in the hobby for probably since the beginning of the hobby. Since Crown Royals existed, yeah.
I remember friends in college having them. So
Yeah. That's been a staple in the hobby forever. And so that's another thing. Go to your local, go to Goodwill, go to Salvation Army, go to any of the thrift stores. See what you can find there. Playmobil. I was talking a little bit about,
yeah, I had those when I was a kid.
yeah. I was talking a little bit about the Diplo stuff, but Playmobil has a lot of play sets that end up in, uh, you know,
Thrift
salvage
stores.
thrift stores or yeah, Goodwills. Now, obviously don't do anything drastic like rip it out of a child's hand, but if you're at Goodwill and you see a Playmobil set and it's pick it up if it's worth it,
Mhm. Look, I think that the heart of the hobby is creativity, and these are all things that you can just get creative with.
Yeah,
And I dare say, in some cases, at least for me, I get as much, if not more, joy out of something that I made, even if it's not quite as nice as a thing that I could have bought.
right. Yeah.
You know,
Well,
and that's that.
yeah, that's a profoundly bold statement. And with that profoundly bold statement, let's move into game of the week.
Woohoo! Game of the week.
Game of the week. Game of the week.
Where are we going, Steve?
I have 3.
You have 3. Okay. Well, then
I need you to roll well, actually, I'll roll one. Hold on. Do 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 do. Roll. Actually, 1d3. Oh, and if you're playing over Discord, the best dice app I've found is called Rollem. Rollem.
mhm. Nice little lightweight thing, does whatever you needed to do
And
reasonably well.
what it does is, so every other dice app I've used, you have to input like exclamation mark roll and then your things that you want it to roll, and roll them. You just put 1D, or you just put, number D number enter, and it brings up your result.
Mhm. You could have it, and you can literally tell it to roll D anything, and it will.
Yes. Yes. So I rolled a D3 and I have mine picked. So I'm ready.
Uh-huh.
You want me to go first?
Sure, go first.
All right. I have a game called A State,
Oh, I've heard of this. Which version do you have?
2nd edition.
Is that the Cubicle 7 one?
This is by Handwork Games, and the rule system is Forged in the Dark. I don't see
Okay,
Cubicle 7 listed.
no, it's not. I know what it is. I was thinking Cubicle 7 because that's who the guy that's running the new version used to work for. I can't
Okay.
think of his name though.
Yes. They're bringing the wine dark visual vibes of Dark City, City of Lost Children's, Dickensian anti-Thatcher science fiction, and I love it. The art is dystopian and cyberpunk and dirty and grimy, and if I were to ever play a 1984 game, I think I would play it in this.
You remember the game we went on a goose chase for a while back called Cold City?
Yes.
The same guy was involved in writing it.
Yeah,
I'm
I could
almost
see
positive.
that. I could see that. But A-State is something to check out. It is something to behold. Also, Drive-Thru might be dropping their new website soon, eventually.
Yeah, they keep saying that.
Yeah. Yeah, it runs in Forged in the Dark, so it should be a really good system. Definitely some very cool stuff. Very cool stuff there. Yeah, it just looks like a really cool dark cyberpunk game.
Cool. Yeah, I've heard of it before, but I never really looked at it.
Yeah, A-State 2nd Edition.
All right.
Did you find it, or do you need it?
I'll look it up. I'm sure I can find it.
I'll actually have to send you a link because I don't think
Okay.
you will. Not that I don't have faith in you, but I just
Well, there is Drive-Thru search engine.
Yeah.
Oh, you're on the new preview of the fancy site. Wow.
Yeah.
Aren't you special? Yeah, that does look pretty cool. That really does.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, mine is maybe a bit less serious.
Okay.
Maybe a bit more serious, depending on your take. My game of the week is a brand new game, as in it literally went on sale on Drive-Thru today. And it's sort of a game / supplement. It's a little kind of zine thing from Pocket Quest 2022, which was like a game jam type thing.
Mm-hmm.
What I found is Roller Derby Road Trip.
I looked at this.
Lace up your skates, you're on track for adventure. And it's basically a supplement / sort of standalone thing to add roller derby into your game.
How much is it?
It is $1.95.
Okay, I'll be buying this.
20 pages. Says it you can print it as a double-sided booklet, then fold each leaf in half and staple it to spine.
Okay.
So it's actually, the file you can it's designed to be able for you to print it and make your own physical copy. But it says, I guess there is a bit of a system in it, because it says it's any system agnostic, and fate. But it says it's GM-less, streamlined dice pool system, adult and junior roller derby settings. I don't know exactly how that works.
Probably one's more vicious than the other.
Yeah, and it even hints that maybe that's just someone in a Sasquatch suit trying to drum up business, or maybe Sasquatch came to the Derby. So I don't know what that means, but hey. But yeah, for less than $2, it sure seems like you could have some fun with it.
I think we have a new conflict resolution tool for RetroStar.
Oh, that would add into RetroStar so perfectly.
Right?
I didn't even think about that.
Welcome to why I was like, I'll buy it again. Bye.
Welcome to the wonderful competition of the Steves make each other buy things.
Yeah. Oh, man. That's good.
And then we convince the other one to run the game that we want to play for them.
When you running Star Wars for me, Steve?
Hopefully pretty soon. We need to talk about that. Anyway, so is that all we're doing today then? Talk about how you can be cheap little tightwads like us and spend all your money on books instead of the other stuff?
I think so. How much time did that take up?
We're at about an hour 15 raw.
Okay, well, I'll let it down to about an hour.
Yeah, should be about that.
Well, with all that being said, we want to thank everyone for listening. Remind you to be kind to one another and get out there and play some RPGs.
Yep. Take care, y'all.
Be cheap, folks. Intro and outro music by the band 12 Noon. You can email us at meandsteverpg@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter and RPGs. Find us on Facebook at Me and Steve RPG Podcast. On Discord at Me and Steve RPGs. And as always, all of these links are in the show notes. Thank you, and be kind to one another.
How much for the cigar?
Cigar, $20, dog. You gotta go down the street to the store and buy that.
See if we can make Hula yell at his radio this week. I was yelling at me radio. This has been your stationary hour with Steve.
That, or we could do a talk about the gaming supplies on the cheap, but I don't think that hits as well as.
Oh, come on. That would be a fun conversation.
You want to do that?
Yeah, let's do that. That's a little bit more of a bullshit. We've been doing so serious topics recently. Do you see why? I wasn't trying to discourage you, but do you see why I sent that to you? Because I know you're not going to be able to find A-State.
Well, yeah, it probably will be a little hard to search.
Because it's got that stupid...
Yeah, I know it has that stupid thing in it. There's what I want. Okay. Oh, wait, let me turn the stupid machines off.
Turn the stupid machines off.